Bonjour, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tiki Taka. I'm Joseph,
I'm Travis.
and today we're going to be rebuilding Man United. I'm not in the best outfit for this, but I have no stake in this game. So I'm going to leave this to Travis because this is his team. And here's a quick preview of what you can expect for us to talk about today. Growing up, being a Liverpool fan sucked a lot because of United.
If it wasn't for gaining all those fans and marketing during that time, where would we be right now? I think we would be relegated.
I love Sing Old Trafford's Falling Down. That's one of my favorite songs of all time.
We get dominated by every big team and sometimes even small teams that we play. It's embarrassing.
Who is crazy enough to come and fix this?
Daniel Levy. You can say what you want about him, but man, was this guy hard to negotiate with.
You walk up to Carlo and say, do you want to take on this challenge? He would tell you to eat shit.
For somebody to put Man U on the back burner and said, no, can you wait for me? Goes to show how far United has fallen. If you don't have a track record of doing that or winning anything, then you need to take a step back and employ executives that have a track record of success.
This may be harsh. Sir Jim Ratcliffe strikes me as a guy that would probably die before he admits that he was wrong.
We had an opportunity in Nashworth and we just let that slip through our fingers. At what point did we think that was a good idea?
The cycle always continues. So, with all that being said, Travis, we're about 2 years into this takeover. Oh, takeover is a very big word to say. 2 years into the Ineos Ratcliffe era. How do you think he's doing?
Yeah, takeover, mini takeover, right? He won the battle. He's still losing the war. Honestly, for me, the ownership model, I still can't really figure it out. I don't understand the move that Jim Ratcliffe made. You pay over $1 billion for a quarter of the company, and you're taking all the heat.
Yeah, 27% of the company, 100% the blame. It's an interesting move.
Yeah, unless there's something that we don't know about, right? Like in a couple of years, is he going to be acquiring 60% of the business? Something that, maybe the public doesn't know. But being a successful billionaire that he is, I'm baffled by the deal at all ends. Why would you take all the heat? Why would you basically free the Glazers out of anything? The Glazers is like, oh, I get $1 billion and I'm still the majority owner and I don't have to worry about football operations and you're going to take all the heat for me? Where do I sign?
Yeah, I mean, it's just very, it's weird, right? Most people will come into a consortium like this and they want at least 50%. Look at the Blue Company, when Todd Bowley took over at Chelsea. Blue Co took in a huge stake and now they're making a lot of the major decisions. And Todd Bowley is kind of on the back burner saying, hey, fine, you guys can do all that, but you have to take the heat. You're the major owners now. And the Glazers still being the major owners, still at the scene of the crime in most cases. People have just completely forgot about them and don't really want to blame them anymore for that. Do you think that's maybe just down to fatigue and now there's finally a new enemy, a new persona non grata that United fans can drop their grievances against?
For some people, I would say for sure. And I definitely think headlines and selling newspapers and whatnot and blogs, yeah, definitely. I'm on podcasts, right? It gives them a new face as an evil villain. I still think Glazers are part of the problem. At the end of the day, it is up to them, though, how they want to run their company. If somebody's willing to take all the blame and they know the game better than they do, who are they to say no? I just, again, what a dumb move, in my opinion. I don't see why anyone would do that.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back to what you just said right now. You're right. You're not in control of this company, quote unquote. In reality, it's not a company, though. This is a football club. This is an institution. It's Man United. There's legendary players that have come through here. You are one of the biggest clubs in the world. To call it a business, do you think that's doing a disservice to this club? And that's also just leading it down this rabbit hole of just never, ever improving?
No. Let's be real. Every club is a business these days. It always has been. Ever since the game started growing in popularity, there's no stopping it. To be sustainable, to be relevant, to outdo the competition, they've always been a business just without the formalities and the lawyers involved. Now, I think it's maybe a little bit too businessy, if that makes sense. And I think certain owners care more about profitability than performance. Case in point, United, I think they're one of them. But if you have an owner or owners that care about the sporting project as well as the marketing, the business, and financial side of it, then it couldn't be any better. Because at the end of the day, you can have a club be all about sporting, but if you don't have a good business model, or if you're not big enough as a club, you're going to be stuck in League Two, League One, Championship, and you're never going to be able to do anything. So yes, it is a business, but again, depending on how much emphasis you put on the business side, can detriment your sporting side.
Yeah, especially if you point Ratcliffe in there, who is really known for just being a business wizard. What good is he really going to do for you? And like you said, what track record does he have of being a sports guy? He has none. If you want to count his company being a kind of a title sponsor for the Mercedes team, that's still, they have no hand in that. They're just throwing money at, Mercedes saying, hey, build a fast car. And that's kind of all he knows how to do. When you look at it right now, wouldn't you say that he's not really fixing any problems? He's just trying to throw money at the problem, hoping it goes away.
That's been United's problem for years, though. Throwing money at things, hoping that it would fix. I do think there's underlying issues, though. Just because you might have the best players, it doesn't always mean it's the best team, per se. I mean, that's just one analogy. You need to find the puzzle pieces that fit together, not just the biggest ones.
Yeah, not the flashiest ones, but you need to have a real cohesive team. Staying on the business side of it, record revenues, one of the biggest clubs in the world. I believe they're making a little over 666 million pounds a year, but that's still an overall loss of 33 million pounds. How is that possible? It just doesn't make any sense given the outgoings that you do see coming from United sometimes. Is it just this constant need to buy a big name player or just spend money on someone big to hope that it brings that magic spark? What's going on with all that money, dude?
Well, first of all, 666. That's a bad number. Oh, man. Where do I start? I think.
Red Devils, dude. Come on, what do you mean bad number?
Yeah, it suits it. For me, it's going to go down to the pillars of his success in order to rebuild Man United. First one being finance, so we'll go over that one first. Next, we'll go over tactical identity, head coach or manager, however you want to look at it, squad, and then finally accountability. So we'll move on to finance. Yeah, they definitely had record revenues and persistent overall losses over the last few years. You're asking, how can that happen? Poor leadership. That's exactly how. I think Man U has a habit of overspending in the transfer window, panic buying in the transfer window, at any window, summer or January. They think, oh, let me just throw money at things and it'll solve it. Clearly, it hasn't. We haven't been able to turn around and get the resale value on a lot of players. So that's where a lot of the losses are going. If you look through the weeds of it, it's bad. It's bad, Joy. Not just the transfers on the pitch, but things off the pitch. They've laid off over 400 people. We have had a leaky stadium. Like, how embarrassing is that? You're Man U. You're one of the biggest clubs, arguably, right after Madrid, maybe Barca. You're the third most popular club in the world. And you have a leaky roof at the stadium. It's embarrassing, man. And, now they're in talks of building a new stadium. What is it, $2.5 billion, and they're asking for government assistance because we can no longer afford it. Jim Ratcliffe recently went on with, I think it was Gary Neville, right? Last year, talking about how, if it weren't for him, United were going to go bust. I don't know. It's from managerial appointments to overspending on transfers. Like I said before, not being able to turn over some of those transfers into profits. It's just been complete regression at every step. Every decision they've made has gone from bad to worse.
I agree. I mean, when I read at the start of the season that they're laying off those 400 people, that's just, you don't do something like that as a football club. I mean, yes, it's a business at the end of the day. This may be mean, but United isn't a city or a Newcastle where it's a club that's run by all intents and purposes a emotionless entity. It's just oil money just coming in, do what's right, make it profitable, make it work. Clubs like United, Liverpool, it's going to hurt to say, like a Forest, they care about their fans. They're very passionate. It's not just a team that you support. It's not just a club. It's a family. And then just to basically tell 400 family members to go kick rocks at the start of the season when they're expecting good things to happen with you, it's very weird. And I love seeing Old Trafford's falling down. That's one of my favorite songs of all time when that was going on. But it is sad. It's very sad. The Theater of Dreams is one of the most storied, richest stadiums in the entire world of football. And to not go down the route that I think more and more teams are going down. I mean, we saw Arsenal, we saw City leave their historic grounds to go to the Etihad and the Emirates. They're great stadiums, but there's not a history there. There's a history at Old Trafford. And to just want to up and leave it because, there's a few leaks and you have to replace some toilets doesn't make sense if you're willing to spend that 2 point whatever billion on a stadium. Why do you think they want to leave Old Trafford so bad? I mean, it just can't be money wise. There has to be something else beyond that, right?
That I don't know. I think everybody can have their own conspiracy theories, right? One of them could be just to escape the recent horror show that's been happening since Alex Ferguson left. So maybe they're just trying to get rid of that. If you think about, yes, it is a historic building. By the time they are done building this new stadium, it's going to be around, I think, 2030, 2031, somewhere around there. So a lot of the kids these days don't have those memories at Old Trafford. You will if you're maybe my age, anywhere from 30 to 50. But I'm not so opposed to getting new stadiums. Eventually, structural damage happens, and I don't know how it looks when you open the hood of Old Trafford. I don't know how much more damage is there. None of us know, right? We're not contractors, so maybe there's more. Maybe it's just to be able to increase the size and capacity and to stay modern, they need a new stadium. If that's the case, that doesn't bother me that much, if I'm being honest. However, to be asking for help when you're this making record revenues, it begs the question, like, what are you doing? If we were in La Liga, right, and they have their strict financial fair play rules over there, there's no way they would approve this, right? It's just because it's in England, it's a whole different story. They're so much stricter over there as far as being sustainable. And United, if it weren't for their popularity and their growing the Fergie era, right? If it wasn't for gaining all those fans and marketing during that time, where would we be right now? I think
Yeah.
we would be relegated if I'm being honest.
You're right. It's very interesting. Again, this club, that stake was bought for over $1 billion. And then Ratcliffe's also pledged and committed 300 million of his own money to this club. Why are you still losing money? Why is nothing getting approved? Nothing's being done. Why is your training facility still the same way Ronaldo left it? What's going on with the money, man? I know you said panic buys. I disagree with you on saying that United makes panic buys. I think United definitely overspends horrifically for players they do desperately need. When you say a panic buy, who's someone that comes to your mind that's a panic buy? My follow-up to that is, who is a grossly overpaid for, United player? First one that comes to mind for me is Antony in this modern era right now. I mean,
Oh,
no shot.
Who? When I say panic buys recently, I'm not talking about just the last couple of years. I'm talking about since Fergie has left. So a lot of those that we've brought in have just been overall poor signings. I think, saying Antony is going to be the solution could be one of them. I do think, the swap deal with Alexis Sanchez and Mkhitaryan was just odd. I get it at the time, but just to think one player was going to fix everything kind of builds into that narrative of, we're panicking, let's find the solution. If we got this one guy, let's bring him in.
It's kind of like what you did when you brought in Schweinsteiger.
Same thing with Højlund, though, right? We're like, oh, Holland told us no, and look at him at City. Now we need our own version of Holland. Let's go get Højlund. And the guy had, I think, what was it, 9 or 12 goals in Serie A, and we spent over 70 million on him. To me, that's a panic. You're panicking because you need to keep up with City, your rivals right next door, right? You need to overpay to get somebody who has blonde hair and same height and could be him one day, and it just didn't happen.
You guys just basically did the same thing again when you bought Sesko this summer.
Yeah.
It's
I'm at a loss of words for a lot of the signings. I'm not saying that Sesko is a bad player, but to lead the line, in your young 20s for Man U, it's a big task. We didn't just leave Rooney up there when we had Rooney. We had a partner at all times. I know it is a different formation, but it's a lot of pressure to be the number 9 of United. Just leave him up there alone and
figure it out, stupid.
Yeah. These are the things that you see on the screen listed historically of the things that we've done. Here are the future as far as things that we can do. Stop panic buying is one of them. Being more selective on our transfer targets, managerial appointments like this. It has a huge emphasis on who we get next for the next managerial appointment, who the next transfer targets are. I know some contracts are, have like performance-based clauses. Maybe we just add more of it. Look at other industries. Those are all like performance-based.
Don't walk down that route, man. We've been down that route before with those
We have, but at this point, it doesn't justify we're just overspending and giving these guys hundreds of $1,000s a week for these kind of turnouts. There has to be, at least in the temporary, maybe performance-based clauses or tiered wage structures. If you qualify for Champions League, you get a bonus, or your next year's wages are going to be X amount. Casemiro's contract is like that. Maybe we should install something like that in everybody's contract, because finishing like we did last season wasn't great. And if you're going to cut costs, sure, you could piss off 400 people by laying them off, but just piss off a couple of players, or find somebody cheaper. We don't need to be overpaying for these guys that are over 30, or you're paying for potential when we don't have the funds for it.
Are you
So the
still
next few
paying
buys,
Rashford's wages?
yeah, but we'll get to the squad in a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying all his wages. But I
No,
mean,
yeah. So
Barca's in
I have
their
one more question in
own.
terms of player ins and outs. You look at our favorite guy, dude, Scott McTominay.
Yeah,
You see someone like McTominay go out. Rashford, who I just mentioned, is that guy having fun at Barca? Look at Højlund over there at Napoli as well with McTominay. Rashford's on loan and is probably going to leave for less than
pennies.
20 million.
Yeah.
McTominay left for around probably that same figure. Højlund's probably going to do the same thing. Is it not maybe? And even Anthony left for, I think, for a free, or he left for practically nothing as well, and he's tearing up. Is United just bad at business now? Just across the board?
In a way, we don't have that cutthroat businessman. I know a lot of people might
But you
hate me
think
for saying
Ratcliffe
this.
would be that guy, no?
No. It's not. It's usually up to the sporting director to do those kind of contracts and things like that. So in this case, Jason Wilcox. But I would say, oh gosh, I might get a lot of shit for this, but Daniel Levy. You could say what you want about him, but man, was this guy hard to negotiate with. He didn't let people go for cheap, and he most of the time did not overspend. So having somebody that is savvy in negotiations like that is something United lacks, because a lot of people pigeonhole them. They see the need that United have, and just because you have the name Man U, you're going to slap an extra fine on it. Just like if you're ever getting married, right? The same plot of flowers for getting married versus just buying them on Valentine's Day could be completely different just because you have the word wedding in front of it, right? Wedding cake, wedding flowers, everything is so much more expensive. And that's the problem that United face. People see United, they're going to overcharge them because they know they have the money. But until we get our finances under control, we shouldn't be doing those. Just move on. So people are pushing back too much. Just, okay, never mind. And just move on to the next target.
Yeah, this United reminds me, but it's not as extreme a case, but when Liverpool was getting sent to administration before FSG came out, bailed us out, it's making just stupid transfers, just overspending on players like Balotelli, Ricky Lambert, Lazar Markovic. Markovic had some potential. People were high on him, but Ricky Lambert and Mario Balotelli, we paid just too much money for those guys. And then got nothing out of anyone that we sold. So if I get the feeling that United thinks they're still the United of old, if that makes sense, the way they want to run business. They want to be able to buy whoever because they need this person and they're supposed to be good, and they can sell someone for, pennies on the dollar because they can afford to do it with, prize money that they're going to win in endorsement deals. Does that kind of ring true to you that United's stuck, 20 years in the past?
Some people are, definitely. I would say from fans and both from maybe the board perspective, they're stuck 20 years in the past. And I think that's something that we need to move on from. That hasn't been United for quite some time. And it's great if that's your strategy, but you have to be winning things on a consistent basis, whether it be the Premier League or Champions League, to get that prize money. And if you're barely qualifying or not qualifying, as in, like how it was this last season, you have to change your strategy at that point. You can't just still be spending the same amount of money. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, throwing money at this problem isn't fixing it anymore. It's not going to. Don't want to talk money forever, so let's move on to the tactical identity, that next thing you had written down.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, being a Liverpool fan sucked a lot. Why? Because of United. When you came against United, you knew that they're going to just outwork you. They're going to bully. They're just strong. They have the flair to get around you. They're going to big body you into submission and then show how talented that team really is and break your spirit. This United team that I see now, they have guys who are hard men, quote unquote, guys who think they are Roy Keane. I'm looking mainly at the Butcher, you guys who love to call the Butcher. He's supposed to be your hard man, Martinez. He's not a hard man. You went and got an old hard man in Casemiro. It's not the same guy anymore. What is this new United? What is your identity currently?
That's one of the things that always puzzles me when people say, what's our DNA? And I don't think Man U has a DNA in that sense where people are saying, like Barca. Barca has a clear DNA. They're going to play a 4-3-3, maybe sometimes a 4-2-3-1. They're going to have possession-based football. Man U's been fluid historically. Especially during the Fergie era. Yes, they played 4-4-2. I wouldn't expect that to happen these days, but they've always been fluid. Sometimes they played counterattacking football. Sometimes they played possession football. Sometimes they had flair players. Sometimes they didn't. I don't think of DNA as formations. I think, are we a buying club or are we a selling club? Are we going to be known for our stars like Madrid? Are we going to be known for our academy? What kind of style of play? Not necessarily the formation. Are we playing attacking, possession-based, counterattack, defensive football? What are we? For myself, United needs to be an entertaining football club and has a mixture of both big stars and academy products. So you are going to buy some players, some of those big stars. You look at the past, you had Van Nistelrooy, Wayne Rooney, but you also had the class of 92. You had Giggs come through. You had a mixture of it. You're going to combine both youth and experience because we've seen in the past, sometimes when it comes to experienced players, yes, they're good for maybe a year or two, but then they do age out and you're stuck rebuilding the whole squad. You look at the flip side of that, what Chelsea's doing, they're all very young. I think their average squad is 23 or younger, but they have no experience there and they can't get over the line and they're struggling. So when you have that perfect blend, it's beautiful. So for myself, I think we need to play attacking football and we have to be difficult to beat. You're talking about Butcher, B. Martinez. Look, to be quite frank, he probably is United's most aggressive player. Does that necessarily mean he's the same as what we had back in the day, like Vidic? Nowhere near close. But at the same time, I don't think you can play like Vidic and like how Pepe was at Madrid and get away with it with today's refs and the rules and how soft the game has gone. Say what you want about Martinez, but I do think he's pretty good. I think he passes out of the back well, and now that he's back, we're going to be harder to beat. At the end of the day, Joey, we need to make Old Trafford a terrifying place again. Like you said, you grew up terrified of going to Man U, and it sucked for you being a Liverpool fan because you knew if you were going away at Old Trafford, it was going to be one hell of a match.
That's why the 08-09 game when, Torres dog walked Vidic, that's why it lives so prevalently in my mind because that never happened. That should never have happened going to Old Trafford. But it happens regularly now. It happens almost all the time, no matter who you are coming in. City this past weekend, this is not a City of old. But I think 9 times out of 10, a club that comes in who is superior does dominate a United team. I don't know if this maybe the Carrick bounce, which is great for you guys. But I want to talk about your tactical identity. I think I want to disagree with saying you guys buy stars. Because
not recently. I'm talking about back in the day. We bought a couple of stars, right? We bought NCR7, bought Van Nistelrooy, bought Rooney. Right?
But here's the thing.
I know Rooney at the time wasn't that big of a star, but
they weren't. Exactly, they weren't stars. Gaza was highly rated at Everton. He wasn't the face of the Premier League. United made him the face of the Premier League. Ronaldo, highly rated at Lisbon. He still was on no one's radar of ever being one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. That was not on his radar. Fergie made him that way. United did that. Rude was highly rated, but Ruud did not explode onto the scene. When people think of Ruud van Nistelrooy, no one thinks about Ruud up until he gets to United. You think of Ruud once he's at United. You look at Scholes, Giggsy, Becks, the Neville
Well, those
brothers.
guys are part of the academy, but look at Van
the
Persie.
One person I can think of is Rio.
Well, but even then, Rio made it hit it big at United as well. So I take your point, but look at other players. Right? You look at Van Persie, right? The finishing piece of the puzzle, if you will.
I mean, you do Barbatov if you want to put him in there, maybe.
Sure, you can. Van der Sar, I think, is another one.
You guys have gone away from being this club that prioritizes its youth and just gets little stars to, not little stars, but it gets 2 or 3 guys that do lead the charge. But this has been a team that's relied heavily on its academy and youth. Would you agree with that?
I think particularly for the class of 92, yes. I think beyond that, not as much, not as heavily, but still, yeah, I mean, it's always had some elements in it.
So I see your proposed plan. You want to be a buying club. However, do you think...
Well, when I say buying club, I mean versus we're not a selling club, right? We're not just, let me produce this player so I can sell it to Barca, so I can sell him to Madrid, so I could sell him to Juve. We want to hold on to them. We don't want
Hmm.
to be the one that's producing them for other people. We're producing them for ourselves, and we're going to get your best guy too. So that's the sense of for the buying
Well,
clubs.
what kind of players do you target right now? Do you go out because, like we just said, running business that they are the same United of 20 years ago isn't working. It's not going to work. You can't just keep trying to sign people because your name is United. You're going to get a worse and worse product. I mean, Cunha, I really liked him last season. The only reason why he signed there is because it's United, and he's frankly not all that. Mbeumo, he only signed because the name is Manchester United. He knows there's going to be money there.
I'm glad you asked that. I unfortunately can't reveal that to you right now. I gotta wait till we get to the squad section, and then we'll ask me again at that section, and then we'll kind of
Okay.
dive
All
into
right.
more
I'll
detail.
save my questions on the types of players you'd like to get after. But right now, what is the style of football that needs to be played? What's going to get Old Trafford moving again?
It's got to be entertaining football. You might have one player, but attacking, none of this counter-attacking stuff just constantly. It's quite boring. And the way that the Premier League is going, I think we need to have possession. I'm not saying 60% possession, but we get dominated by every big team and sometimes even small teams that we play. It's embarrassing, especially at Old Trafford. This is our home. It's one thing when you're playing away, you're going to the Emirates or any of the big six stadiums. You're going away to them, so yes, it makes sense to maybe be a little bit more pragmatic in those games. But when you're at home, the expectation is that this is my house. You need to be on the defensive. So attacking possession-based football, right? Having a strong defense, not being so easily scored against. Our goal differential over the last couple seasons has been horrific. That's got to change, man. Part of it is because we're not putting as many goals in the back of the net. We've created a lot of opportunities. I don't know if you could say they're great opportunities, but we're putting in more goals this season, but we're still letting in a lot of goals, man, and we are very easy to play against at the moment.
Unless you're playing Liverpool, then we can't figure you guys out.
Dude, I'm telling you, sometimes they just show up randomly. They're very unpredictable.
That's always a game that United will show up to. That and the Manchester Derby. I mean,
Sometimes, dude. I mean, you
it's going
remember
to
when
be
we
a
played
cold
you
day
guys
in
a few
hell if they
years
don't
ago?
show up. Well,
I hate to be the one to even bring that up, but sometimes we just,
a glorious day.
yeah.
One of my favorite days. But so, last question on this tactical identity. A lot of clubs are going away from the traditional manager role. Liverpool comes to mind right away. We had Jurgen. Jurgen was an institution. He ran everything. And now we have Slot. Slot's not really a manager in the traditional sense. He's just a head coach. He tells FSG, Edwards and Hughes, hey, I need players like this. And then they take care of the rest. He has really no say. Do you think United needs something like that? Do you need a head coach that will say, yes, sir, that sounds good? Or do you need a real manager to come and say, no, things need to change this way. It's my way or the highway?
That's on my next slide.
No.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on then.
But
Let's talk about the head coach.
before I move on, I just wanted to the relationship is something that they do need to do better at. So to give you a little quick answer to that, I do think the sporting director and manager, head coach, whatever you want to call them, they need to be more so working together. It seems like Amram was alluding to the fact that they operate as two different departments. I'm here to coach, and then you just find whatever players you think you're gonna magically buy for me, and then I got to make this puzzle piece work. Same thing with Maresca at Chelsea, right? There's a lot of people out there, especially podcasters and pundits, saying that sporting directors should not get involved with formations and tactics at all. I don't know if I could agree with that. And the reason is because most of the time they have to have their coaching license as well. And those are like UEFA A Pro license. So they have to know something. It's not that they don't know anything. And sometimes they have been former coaches at the youth level, sometimes pro. But they're not the ones that are going into the tactics. If Jason Wilcox went to Amarim and said, you need to play this formation and you need to play Mainu in this spot, I think that's overstepping the boundaries. My personal opinion. However, I do think the sporting director needs to act kind of like a soundboard and provide extra support and kind of challenge the manager when results are going poor and to come up with new ideas. First and foremost, it should be up to the coaching staff and his assistant coaches to say, let's try this something new. Maybe they were doing that, maybe they weren't. Maybe it was just so hard-headed that he didn't want to try anything new. But I don't think it's wrong of Jason Wilcox if he went in saying, we've been playing 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2 recently. We've had great results. How come you went back to a 3-4-3? Because you could see the difference in the shift of the players' attitudes and the results of the games. I don't think that should be out of the question for him to question Amarim. That's his job at the end of the day as a sporting director, right? If this ain't working, you got to replace him or you got to question it. And you're not saying that, hey, buddy, you don't know anything. It's Tell me your thought process. Help me understand, because I need to back you up, because I'm going to get questioned too. So that's what I'll say. The manager should operate as a manager, but under the supervision of a sporting director. Same as any other industry. You have a supervisor or manager, and that guy or girl has their own supervisors or manager. They don't just do whatever they want and have no accountability.
Yeah, everyone answers to somebody.
Exactly.
So,
All
you
right.
mean staying on the topic of manager, there's quite a few openings that look like are going to be available either, later on this month, later on the season, or at the start of the summer. And United is always one that's, highly, highly coveted. Given all the problems that do exist with the Glazers and ownership, I mean, to be the manager to say, I brought United back. I mean, you go down in history, right? So who do you put in there to be the new head coach and manager of United? Who is going to find this real identity and say, no, this is what this club is. We need to find ourselves again. Who do you put there? Who wants to take that job more importantly?
Okay. Brings us into our next part perfectly. Every manager is going to back themselves. I'm going to be the one to do it, right? I think it's still a sexy job. Being the coach of Man U or the manager, whatever you want to call it, being that for Manchester United is a game changer for a lot of people. What I will say, though, I was surprised when they went after Amorim, and his response was, can I wait till summer? Now, I understand why he wanted to wait. He wanted a preseason. He wanted to get his players in. I get all that. But for somebody to put Man U on the back burner and said, hey, no, can you wait for me? You're not big enough for me to leave my job right now, goes to show how far United has fallen.
And it wasn't like, he's
managing
a Munich or, some
exactly.
top flight La Liga
Madrid,
club. You're at
Barca,
Lisbon and Portugal. That's what you're doing.
and he wasn't even he was an up and coming manager. He wasn't even an Ancelotti or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So to have somebody do that is where United are at. It's attractive, sure, but is it good enough for people to leave what they're currently doing? Clearly not. So who do we get? Who fits our identity? Do we look for an up and coming manager or an established manager? Are we looking for a tactical genius or a man manager? Do we get them now or do we wait till summer? I don't think that we should stick to any strict formation. I don't think we need to say, hey, we need a manager who plays a 3-4-3 or a 4-4-2. I think that's pretty dumb. That's pretty wild. I think there are some formations that you can just X out right away. If you say we tried the 3-4-3 route with Amorim, I don't want a manager that's going to play that. You look at you look at the squad and you're like, I have to buy 6 new players. It just can't happen. We have to do this slowly. So let's look for somebody else that can do a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, 4 at the back. I think that's okay to say. So I think we need to use our analytics to pair and identify managers. If we're looking for possession-based football, let's find one who has the highest possession stats. Now, I think for us, at the moment, we need to find an established manager. We need to have somebody that has a blend of tactical genius and man manager. But for right now, probably leaning more towards the tactical genius. I'm going to provide a couple of examples. I'm not saying these are who I would get, but I look at tactical genius and I'm thinking, okay, you have somebody like Xabi Alonso, who's very good with his tactics. You have Pep Guardiola, you have Luis Enrique, tactical guys. And then you have man managers, right? Jurgen Klopp, who has a blend, but Jurgen Klopp's a great man manager. Carlo Ancelotti, arguably the best man manager. I think the man managers do better when you have more egos and bigger stars. And I don't think Man U right now has the biggest stars and the biggest egos. You just said it not too long ago, right? We got Mbeumo and Cunha. They're good players, but are they elite? The top of the top, the world class, the best 2 players in their positions? No, but they're good. So I would say lean more towards the tactical genius side for now.
Okay.
And I think it even goes beyond that, because as a sporting director, if you're looking at this, you're not just looking for the next year or 2. You also have to plan 5, 10, 15 years out. So I think you need to identify 2 different managers. You look for the one that's going to help us get to that next stage and consistently qualify for Champions League. So tactical genius first. When you consistently qualify, you're going to attract better players, bigger egos, bigger salaries. Once you attract those ones, then you shift to a man manager to balance those egos. Because at that point, when you're buying the best player in each position, there's only so much coaching you can do. Everybody can always learn more, yes. But those guys aren't really interested in getting filled with information and all that stuff. They just want to go out there and play. They know how to do it. You need to get a man manager. So I think you need to come up with a short list. You look at who's out there or potentially who could be out there. You have Luis Enrique, Thomas Tuchel, Carlo Ancelotti, Unai Emery, Eddie Howe, Oliver Glasner, Areola, De Zerbi, Maresca, Xavi, Zidane, Klopp. Now, some of these are not realistically going to come to United. Like, I don't think Xabi Alonso would ever come. Klopp, definitely not. Dan, doesn't look like it. You look at some that are currently holding national team positions, like Ancelotti and Tuchel. You can't get them now. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a manager that of that upper echelons that we can get. We're just not there right now. If Madrid, on the other hand, turned around and said, "Hey, Carlo, you want to come back?" I think he would leave. But if we tried that with Carlo, I don't think he would leave Brazil. Does that make sense?
No, man, that makes sense. And I want to ask you this. Do you think you're maybe falling into the same trap that the Glazers and Ratcliffe are in right now, where we're united so we can get this top coaching challenge talent? Well, no, actually, you're united right now. You can't get this top coaching talent. Like you just said, I mean, you walk up to Carlo and say, Don Carlo, do you want to take on this challenge of bringing United back? He would tell you to eat shit for all intents and purposes. Sorry, not a nice way of saying it. He'd tell you to leave him alone. Luis Enrique would tell you to leave him alone. Enrique said he wants to come to the Premier League. We all know that. But there's realistically maybe 3 clubs that he'd want to take over for. And it's Liverpool, it's City, or it's Chelsea. I think
Chelsea, really, Chelsea.
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't rate their blue co-manager shuffling. I don't see that being the realistic thing. And again, if Enrique says, "Hey, I want to come manage you, Chelsea," what are you going to say, Todd Bowley and Blue Co? No, we don't want the Champions League winning manager to come here. You're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. So I think a Glazer, an Areola, maybe an Emery. You can maybe get De Zerbi to link him back to the Premier League. But again, do you think United is going to fall into this trap where they don't understand why they can't get this top coaching talent? And instead of getting an established tactical guy, you're going to take a risk on someone who's kind of unknown, who is exciting in a lower quality league like they did with Amarin. Portugal does produce great talent all the time, but that league is not competitive at all. And looking at his tactics, you see why he dominated. It's not good.
I think to answer your question, I think part of that goes into how you enter the negotiations. If you go in a little bit timid, right, and you're like, "Oh, well, we haven't done so well. Maybe we can't get these guys." Then you're gonna fall flat on your face. You have to go in as, "Hey, we are united. We expect the best." Kind of like how they did with Amarim. They stronghold him, but do it to somebody bigger than Amarim, because I don't think Amarim had the emotional capacity to balance the media and the pressure and all that. You could see it took a toll. Now, who I would go for, the blend of tactical genius and man manager, my number one pick out of anybody on this list that I mentioned would be Luis Enrique. He's not renewing his contract at PSG as of now. So with that being said, this guy's won a treble at PSG, he's won a treble at Barca. This guy is pretty amazing.
He knows what he's doing.
Just a little bit. Now, I don't think United are almost there. I don't even think we're 80% of the way there. However, I could tell he wants to come to the Premier League. Let's be honest, the top 2 clubs in history, I would say, with the biggest names are Liverpool or United. And it looks like you guys are probably going to go for Xavi Alonso. I think Luis Enrique, he feels like he could be the one to turn it around, but I also think I'm the one that thinks he can turn it around.
The cycle always continues.
He's great. I would pick Luis Enrique. I think he would have a lot of pull with a lot of players, and he would be able to bring us back. You look at when he was in Spain and ran that national team job as well. He did pretty good. He hasn't done poorly, in my opinion, at any job so far. So he's a manager for now. As far as the future, after he's gone, he might be too old at this point. But somebody like an Ancelotti, that would be great. Those would be my for now and for the future managers. I wouldn't be mad if we got Tuchel as well, or Unai Emery. I think Unai Emery is severely underrated, but my top target would be Luis Enrique.
Enrique's one heck of a manager, man. He's not up there, with me with like a Zidane, an Ancelotti, a Paisley. He's not dynamite, knock him out. You put him anywhere and he's going to change your whole world. But to win 2 trebles is very, very, very impressive. Yes, he is the perfect guy, but just knowing how United is currently, do you think he wants to walk into a headache like that versus a guy like a Glasner, a De Zerbi, or even an Emery? They kind of have been dealing with dumpster fires and these headaches, for a while. And they've been pretty successful. I mean, Glasner won the FA Cup. Palace is not very good currently, but he won an FA Cup, which is great. De Zerbi when he was at Brighton. You didn't know what Brighton was going to do whenever they played you. They were very, very scary. You look at Marseille right now. I'm not going to mention who their number 9 is, but the tactics they have deployed over there in Liga, they're cleaning up over there. It looks like they might run away with Liga if PSG just finally figures it out. Areola, I think, me personally, that's probably your best fit. He's a guy who does not have a lot to work with. He seems to be able to take the pressure well that's coming with this recent success he's had, and he develops this very top tier talent. They had a fire sale last window. They're still competing at a very high level. So out of those three, out of Glasner, Areola, or De Zerbi, I know you said Emery is your guy. Emery did fail at Arsenal. Who would you take out of those three?
They've all been in the leader spot at different times for me. I think right now it would be Glasner, just because of, maybe you call it recency bias, but what he did with Crystal Palace was pretty phenomenal. So I would probably go Glasner if it were up to those three. Now, again, Enrique would be like my first tier, top tier kind of guy. If I couldn't get any of those top tier guys, then I'm looking at Emery, Glasner, Areola, those kind of guys. But one name, too, could be Eddie Howe. He might take over the England job, right? According to reports, but I think Eddie Howe is underrated as well. I think
He's a very good manager.
English manager, very calm, cool, collective. Why can't he do it?
And, I mean, I agree. I wouldn't, in my head, I'm not going to consider Eddie Howe because, I mean, he's getting paid pretty well at Newcastle. He kind of does have a blank check to work with in terms of getting that talent there. And I don't know if this is down to their own recruitment or maybe it is Howe's tactics, but on paper, Newcastle should be a very scary squad, a lot more scary than what they have been for the past 2 years. So Howe's not a bad shout, but I think there's bigger questions to be asked over on his and then there's compared to Glasner and Areola or Emery. You don't want Maresca? You think he's convinced he's going to City?
No, I would take Maresca as well. I think he's proven to be pretty good working with what he's had to deal with, but I don't think he would come because it's the same situation currently as Chelsea. So why leave one dumpster fire for the one next door? I do think Eddie Howe, that the thing that with him is that Newcastle are in a bind because of the financial fair play. And I don't mean to offend any Newcastle fans, but they're not as popular. Popularity does matter and it does bring revenue. So they can't do as many transfers as United potentially can.
Wait, you're saying Newcastle's not a big 6 club? No way.
Let's just say I think he has more money to play with. He maybe won't get paid as much as he is at Newcastle, but he can hit a higher ceiling with United than he can with Newcastle because of the restrictions of financial fair play. So that's kind of my shout. And I think Eddie Howe, he has more body of work than Glasner, Areola, and all of them have in the Premier League. So I think he's been Premier League proven enough. And he's had his hand tied when he was at Bournemouth and everything. And he did pretty well over there too.
If he takes the England job, I think that might be what England needs. Tuchel's a great tournament manager. I've said that to you a lot. So I don't think this is a bad appointment, but Howe would be great. He's a man manager, I think, more than he is a tactical guy because Newcastle's tactics at times they suck to watch. I don't like really watching Newcastle play, but when their players decide to show up, they're great, man. Ultimate, I love that guy. Anthony Gordon, I love him. I wish he would score a little more consistently, but he's great. Guillermo's is great. Joel Linton, he's a ass to play against, but you want someone like that on your team. So staying in the realm of team and players that you get in, let's say you can get Enrique or we get Glasner in for you. What does that squad become like now? What happens to everyone there? What happens to Casemiro? What happens to your favorite United player of all time, Bruno Fernandes?
So it's got to be a mixture of youth and experience. Right now, there's a lot of youth in a lot of spots. But I do think a couple positions are getting on in years. And I do think Bruno Fernandes is great. He's over 30 now, so it's one to keep an eye on. Any players that we bring in have to be adaptable, and we got to use some of these academy guys. The fact that Kobe Mainu was basically iced by Amarim is beyond me, and to have Bruno even playing in that deep lying playmaker is again beyond me. He's not a Pirlo. He's needs to play more forward, more advanced roles. So you had the solution. He was just pigeonholing these players and holding them back. I think we got to identify underperforming players and consistently injured players. And I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. I think Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, historically injured players. I think we need to move on.
It's a shock to me that
we need to move on.
Been here as long as he has been. It's just United has loyalty to its players, which is great. I mean, that's why Carrick, Phil Jones were there for ever and ever. Shaw is at Phil Jones level, and Phil Jones did not deserve all of that love that he got from United.
Phil Jones. He's done a
Carrick,
little bit more than Phil Jones.
yeah, he's done a little more than Phil Jones, but he's done nowhere near as much as Carrick did. So to be holding on
Yeah,
to
not
him
even
like
close. Not even close.
be holding on to him like this when he only shows up when it's a World Cup year. It's just I think it says a lot more about that structure going on at United than this is up to a manager wanting to keep him.
We got to identify those players and kind of move on from them, cut the ties, and we got to be ruthless. Just like we are with managers, we got to be ruthless with players. It's one thing to have their back and to support them, but at the end of the day, if you're spending this amount of money and you're constantly backing them, you're giving them the let's go team, and they're still not performing after a couple of years, you got to cut ties. Sancho's another perfect example. We got to move on. So we got to encourage competition, bring in better people. So that's going to go down to, identifying weaknesses. I'll give you one example. We talked about Højlund earlier. Maybe it's not too late. I know we had the deal with Napoli and with a mandatory buy clause. It's not even an option. It's a mandatory buy if they make the Champions League, which looks like they're going to. But is it worth killing that deal, that loan, and calling them back and have them compete with Sesko? Two guys going head to head for that one spot, similar age, similar height. Is it maybe playing both of them up top? Maybe, maybe not. We also have Cheeto Obi that's still there, not getting any game time. He's a little young, so I get maybe, not bring him in. But if we're not going to bring somebody back like Højlund, maybe bring in an experienced striker. Now, there's not that many, and you look at the ones that are out there, they're just tied down to long-term contracts. Lautaro Martinez till like 2029. Victor Osimhen just signed a 5-year deal last year, right? Again, till 2029. They're all tied up. Now, this is a crazy shout. And honestly, you could throw it out there, sure. Do I think it's realistic? No. But do I think it would help the team? Sure. Harry Kane, his contract expires next year, next summer in 2027. Does he want to come back and help rebuild United? Does he want to break the goal scoring record? Does he want to be the one to kind of show Sesko the ropes, so to speak? If it's not him, there's literally nobody else. He can go the Lewandowski route, but he's mid to late 30s at this point. So I'm not really quite sure any other strikers that are going to be out there. You either bring back Højlund, get Kane, or just stick with what you got. Those are kind of the three that I see right now. There's nobody else available. The other weaknesses in the team that are clearly the midfield. We probably need a 6. I love Casemiro. You know that I love me some Casemiro, but he is getting older, and we can extend his contract another year. But he's a year older. If it's cheaper than going out and spending 100 mil, but maybe it's worth just extending it. Because the way I look at it is that these players now are going for 80 to 100 million. The kind of players that we need to rebuild this squad are 80 to 100 million each. You look at Adam Wharton.
Unproven, by the way. They've done nothing on that price tag. They just know.
It's
to
some level.
Potential at this point.
Yeah, most of it is potential. I mean, you look at Carlos Baleba, Elliot Anderson, and Adam Wharton, right? I'm like, ooh, man, if we can get 2 of those guys or at least one of them, but you're out 100 mil, and that's kind of kills your whole budget. But that is an area that we need to be strengthened. We have to be realistic. Like I said earlier, it's not just coaches, it's players. We have to be realistic at who we can attract at this point in time. We couldn't even get Frankie de Jong, for the last X amount of years. He doesn't want to come to rainy Manchester when not qualifying for any European stuff. I get it. Can't blame him. We're not going to be getting people from Barca, from Madrid, from PSG. We're just not getting those guys. But we probably could get Baleba, Wharton, or Anderson, so I would strengthen one of those. Another position that I would look at is we just brought in a couple of them, but the fullbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe we look at somebody like, don't hate me for saying this, maybe Ben White.
Ooh.
Maybe Livramento. I prefer Livramento. He could play on both right and left, right? Ben White's not getting any playing time at Arsenal. Yes, he's going to win the title right this year, but he's not getting any playing time. Any chance of his World Cup dreams shattered, gone. Maybe we take a Pedro Porro. If you gave me a dream pick, I'd say Hakimi, but we know that's not going to happen.
But you have Drogu, right? I mean, so it's like you guys are kind of getting that spot where you're going to buy great players and then just do nothing with your academy. Drogu, I mean, he's young, but he's not that bad. He's really not that bad.
But he's doing better in advanced roles, and he can do both. He can do left back and he can do left wing back, which is why left back isn't really my main concern. I would say right back is more of the concern than the left back. But if you get somebody like Livramento, he can do both, right? So if Shaw's injured or Dorgu's out, and we need somebody to fill in left back, I mean, boop, there he goes. So I would probably, out of those, target Livramento first. Try and pull him from Newcastle. But Ben White could also play multiple positions: center back, right back. Two birds, one
And yeah,
stone.
dude, I mean, he's so United coded that everyone would hate him instantly as soon as he gets there too. So it'd work out for you guys.
Yeah, the one of the things that I'm not going to be popular for this is looking at the sellable assets. But you got to do it to fund your future projects.
You have those?
Well, not very many. But you look at the Liverpool squad. You guys didn't have diddly squat except Coutinho, and you got rid of Coutinho, and now look at you. Was it at the
I wouldn't say
time you were
get
like,
rid of, but yeah, did have to
yes,
sell
I
Phil.
know you had to sell
Yeah.
him. But look, hindsight's a beautiful thing. You look back, and he hit that deal was the enzyme to help create what Liverpool is today. Now, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but it would sure help some of this instead of firing another 400 people behind the scenes. I mean, maybe we just sell some. Got to sell some of them. You
Who
look
would you
at some
sell though?
academy players. Okay, so short hit list, right? Some of them might be academy players because it's pure profit. You look at Rashford; he doesn't want to stay, so he's doing all right at Barca. You're going to get a lot, no, but you can get something, whatever it is, profit. So sell Rashford, right? Sancho, he's got to go. He hasn't proven anything at any club he's been at. Let him go. I didn't want to get him in the first place, but got to get him off the wage books. His contract has to be somewhat near an end. I mean, he's holding on
Ridiculous.
every year for loan moves, but he's
Yeah.
got to go. Now, the biggest name that I will say here is one that I've said before, and I'm going to get a lot of stick, would be Bruno. Now, I'm not saying Bruno's bad, just like Coutinho wasn't bad for Liverpool. He was your best player, and Bruno Fernandes arguably our best player. But he is on that age of over 30. So can we cash in on him at this point to fund future projects? Can we sell Bruno, let's say to Saudi or something like that, for 80 to 100 mil to bring in an Adam Wharton? I mean, we just brought in Cunha and Embuemo, who can play the same position. So why? And they're younger. So why not sell them? Why are we having three guys in the same position? It it doesn't make sense to me. So that would be the biggest sellable asset that we have.
Let me ask you this, dude, because you brought up Phil, which is, I mean, right. I mean, had we not made that $130 million deal with Barca, we'd never have gotten Van Dijk.
Mm,
We never would have gotten Ali. We wouldn't be, this powerhouse that we're at. But before we sold Phil, we did have Bobby,
mm,
we have Sadio, we had Salah, we had Genie, we had Trent, we had a good, very, very good Robbo, Hendo. We had a team. We were still good with or without Coutinho. We were still a good team. We sold Phil, and what did we do in that same year? Went to the Champions League final. Got smoked because of Karius, but we went to the Champions League after we sold Phil.
I love
I,
that game.
do you think United is even? I don't want to say remotely close. Do you think United is at that level where they could sell Fernandes, this summer, this window, and their league position isn't going to change?
Their league position, I think, will change. The problem, the difference in the time from when you guys sold Coutinho and now is that you could sell Coutinho and buy like 2 or 3 players. Now you might be able to sell Bruno and just get one. The market pricing is insane. So that one person you get has to be a hit. So it's a big gamble. I understand that. You're naming off, a list of Liverpool players. Well, you look at the United guys we brought in. I do think that Cunha, Mbuemo, Ahmad, I think these guys can come good. I think Sesko, same thing. I think there's areas of opportunity, of course, but you look at Aiden Heaven, you look at Le Mans and goal, you look at Lenny Yoro. We have a strong core up and coming, man. I'm telling you. There's a strong enough people there. There's just a few more tweaks to make an overall cohesive, well-oiled machine. A good point is like you look at the game that just happened this last weekend against City, the Manchester Derby. I get it, they were off their game, but some of those clips, they just keep popping up on Instagram. The way that they were passing the ball, it was a sight for sore eyes, man. It was pretty good. So if we can play like that with the new energy and the new formation and a new lift in the team, I don't see why we couldn't consistently finish top 4 and just each year buy 1 or 2 more pieces of the puzzle.
Let me ask you this before we get done with the squad, and I should have asked you when we were talking about managers. Saying you beat City is an understatement. United handled and walked City down. Do you think you even need to get a new manager? And do you want to trust Carrick with this squad? He knows that he's very familiar with it already. So he knows what assets he can sell and like what they can do. Is it worth getting rid of this guy right now? New manager bounce, right? Why not let the dice roll with this guy instead of having to spend a bunch of money to sign a new manager. Now you have less to work with to get into the market to actually rebuild this squad and become good again.
Short answer, no, I don't think we should replace him for the second half of the season. I think we just stick with him till season's over and let the chips fall where they may.
But you don't make him permanent.
I don't know yet. It's still too soon to tell. That's just my own personal opinion. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we can't fall into the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thing again. Well, let's be real. Yes, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it didn't end great. However, we finished like, what, second and third?
Competed. Yeah. Competed for the league.
At least we qualified for Champions League. That's more than what I could say with Ten Hag and Amarim. So I don't think that looking back, it's all that bad. Now, every manager needs a chance. Let's say if we had Pep Guardiola in League Two. Well, all of a sudden, the team he's managing in League Two hit the Premier League? Probably not. A lot of the onus is on the players. And the manager is just figuring out how to fit those pieces together. Not saying that the manager's not important, because clearly we identified they were earlier, but the squad has a lot to do with it. And I think as long as the squad shows up like they did against City, I think Carrick could. If he performs well, and well, we had 17 games left. If he wins, let's say 13 out of those 17, I think there needs to be some serious contemplation. Now, I'm not saying give him a 5-year deal. Give him an 18-month deal. We don't need to do all these big contracts because his loyalty will be to Man U. And if it's not, then it's not. Then find somebody else. Nobody says you need to give him 3, 4, or 5 years. Give him just a year or two. Let him prove himself. Or ask the other managers when World Cup's over, see what their interest is and what their demands are, and if it's unrealistic, stay with Carrick. If he earned it. But we'll see. It's only been one game. So I can't sit here and say, yeah, give him the job. I'm not going to do it. None of those panic buys, remember?
Yeah, no, it's true. I like what you said about keeping not just the manager accountable, because a lot of times, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I like to blame the manager. I blame Slot a lot, but it's not just down to Slot. Gakpo is not the same Gakpo as last season. Maka is not the same Maka as last season. Ibu is Ibu. Accountability is something that United fans like to blame people, but they haven't really held anyone accountable. I mean, notably the Glazers. They blame the Glazers for, Manchester being rainy, or, their crisps being just not crispy enough, or their favorite chippy shut down. They'll blame the Glazers for anything and everything, but they don't hold them accountable. When I say hold them accountable, they still go to the games. They still buy merchandise. Accountability has to be a very huge thing when you're building a club, point blank, period. I'll talk about Liverpool again. We held FSG feet to the flames forever. Klopp knew that if he dropped the ball, it was on him, and he let us know it was on him. When you want to bring in this new manager, head coach, what have you, what do you tell them? Who is going to be to blame at the start? And once it's no longer my fault or that person's fault, when is it actually your fault or player's fault here?
I think they're all to share the blame, from my opinion, man. When it comes down to the accountability, yes, it starts with coaches and players. Obviously, coach first. They're always easier and cheaper to replace one guy in the manager than it is to replace the entire squad. That'll never change, right? So that's why managers are always the first to go. I think there are a few exceptions as far as if this manager's a hit, like Pep, Klopp, Alex Ferguson, those kind of guys. It's like, hey, this is a hit. You stick with him and you get the players out. Right? It's just nobody has that kind of time anymore, right? And as far as accountability goes, I think people will always show up to games when it comes to United because United has that affinity and they will just always show up. Yes, some people will protest, but for the most part, they will still show up. And it's such a big conglomerate that it's more than just the fans in Manchester. You look at in Asia, you look at over here in California, their fans are everywhere and they're going to keep buying merch. And some of that profit and revenue won't go away. It's just going to keep them going. So that's why I'm saying the Glazers have zero ambition to actually sell. Why? It makes no sense.
Yeah,
Sit
I
back,
mean, I
relax.
get money every year, and I don't have to worry about really investing anything into it.
Because they know if they ever sell one day, somebody's going to pay them out.
Yeah,
and
they'll pay
made their money.
People will buy whatever it is. The only way they would get United on a discount or on a deal is if United goes into administration. And if United goes into administration, then we're talking about very scary things. You can't even think about Enrique. You have to start fantasizing about Norwich's manager, Bristol City's manager. You have to sell Bruno. Again, this accountability thing, it's always just a lot of finger pointing. Like you said, it is easier to get rid of the manager and blame him. But look at Amron, dude. Amron refused to take any sort of accountability for what was going on there. I mean, the last person I could think of is Aldi. Aldi said, "Yeah, hands up. I did mess up, guys." And United and the fans just kind of crucified him for it, man. You need a strong manager at United, but do you think you need a manager who is kind of like Amron, where it's just kind of delusional to the point of saying, no, I'm not wrong. I'm not going to take the blame, because if I do, I've already lost you guys. I can't take this blame.
Just like in life, I think at some point everybody needs to take accountability. I do think personally, if you're that delusional though, and you're never going to say you're at fault for it, then my eyes, you're gone. You're not the right guy. You can't force anybody to take accountability. But what you can be in control of is holding them accountable. So the statements that he made this season and last season, it's not motivating. It's not motivating to the players, not motivating for the fans when you're saying this is the worst Manchester United team that's ever existed. Like, why would I want to play for you? So you lost me at that moment. You didn't lose me this season. You lost me last season. So I think we need a certain emotional maturity from the manager. Somebody knows how to handle the media and the dressing room. And Amarim was arguably good up until the last couple weeks at the media. But I don't think he was great at the dressing room from his public statements. I like somebody that has a win or lose together, and I get protecting the players. Oh, if we lose, it was my fault, right? You have managers that do that. It was not the team. Don't put any pressure. It's me, my tactics. I think Slot does that, right? So no, if I was manager, I would say we win and we lose together. Maybe I got my tactics wrong. Maybe they didn't run hard enough, but we win and lose as a team. And I would make that very clear to my team too. I will protect you. I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I am part of this team, just like you're part, like we're together on this. We win and we lose together, not this separation of you didn't do anything wrong, because the players need to understand, yeah, we did mess up. We didn't try hard enough, or we did have an off day. I feel like the managers have been just taking a lot over the years since Ferguson left, and the players have been like sitting back on the beach, putting their hands behind their head, and all right, the pressure's not on me. The manager will take it. So we got to identify those players that want to play for the badge. That's going to run, put in effort. You can't teach effort, man.
No, for sure. And I like what you were saying about win or losing together, because that's not just up to a manager. Can't just say, hey, I didn't do well enough, or you didn't do well enough. I'll just use the number one example that everyone likes to use. Doubters to believers, dude. No one believed in that Liverpool squad. Jurgen said, no, you're going to believe this. You're going to believe in this team. And he took accountability, and he forced everyone on that level of that club to take accountability. It became a whole cultural thing of win or lose, we're together. That's what it is. And my worry is with just what you're saying is that it's going to be just down to the manager to put that whole sense of that new whole culture that needs to exist for United to grow again. And it's not there. Where do you start? Is it the Glazers that are destroying the culture? Is it a sporting director, or is it really just down to the manager to totally fix it? Because it's easy to say that we win and lose together, but actually implementing and making that good, it takes a long, long time. And like you said, man, people don't have time. It took Klopp 2-3 years for us to fully believe, no, you can't beat us. We're the best team in the world. That takes time. Do you think that's something that Glazers, Ineos, United in general is willing to do now? Do they want to take the time to put that culture within it to have the accountability go through?
They got to look at the man in the mirror first. To me, it starts, at the head of the snake, top down, right? Glazers, yeah, I can sit here all day talking about Glazers. That's not going to change. So we'll just move on from that. As far as the operational side of football, we got to start with Ratcliffe, because that's what he's doing. He's in charge of it. We need people that are going to bring positive energy. And I don't mean 100% effort just from the players, but also 100% effort from all the executives. So you have that positive energy. You look at the players, yes, and you move on from those that are, like I said before, underperforming or injured. But the executives also need to be held accountable for their appointments as well. They don't just appoint managers. They don't just appoint players. So let's break it down. We'll start with Jim Ratcliffe. Right? You look at Jim Ratcliffe, Dave Brailsford, Jason Wilcox, and Omar Barada. We'll take a look at those four. Right? They've all made questionable mistakes. So let's go over their credentials. So first, Ratcliffe, being a businessman, very successful businessman, but sporting-wise, particularly football, he's in control of United and Nice in France. Right? The highest Nice has ever finished was 4th, and that was last year. Other than that, they've finished 5th a couple times and 9th a couple times. There's been no trophies, like nothing success-wise. Maybe that was the wrong step. If you say, look, I'm going to buy this club, I'm going to make them successful. Yes, I get it. You back yourself. But if you don't have a track record of doing that or winning anything, then you need to make a step back and employ executives that have a track record of success. So let's look at the team. Dave Brailsford. He's a cycling expert. Okay. How does that apply to football? I
It's
know he took a
sport, but it's not
he
relevant.
correct. I know he took a step back to manage like overall sports accounts and whatnot. But why was he the director of football to begin with? Another mistake. Why would you appoint him? Maybe he's your friend. Maybe he's great at what he does on that end. But this is football. This is a completely different game than cycling. I wouldn't appoint Magic Johnson, the head of Man U. That doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. They're different things. Let's look at Jason Wilcox. He was a youth coach and academy director, and he was a director of football at Southampton for about a year. Okay, I don't see any professional coaching. I don't see any success. Did he lead any teams to trophies, or was he a sporting director of a club that led to many trophies? No. And Dan Ashworth, they sacked him. He assumed the role of the sporting director, but why did we just give him that role?
Yeah.
Just because it was open? Because it was cheaper? What pedigree does he have?
To his credit, I mean, he has done a great job with the academy and the youth system.
I don't know about Gray.
But you pumped out players that are in the first team, players that are at the caliber to make in the Premier League. They're playing the Premier League right now, right? So in my eyes, that is a successful academy. That's a good system. I mean, that's what you want. You want to constantly be able to pump out new people for free and sell them for a pure profit, or just completely integrate into the team. I mean, that's what United's done. So he's doing it right.
Who has he produced that we sold for a load of money in the academy?
No one
Nobody.
yet.
Nobody.
No one yet.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that he can't ever be the guy, but the guy for right now, and it's like a domino effect. If you have like 6 guys that don't know what they're doing, like you got to at least have 2, 3. So again, it's more than just finding the players. It's going into negotiations. It's looking for the future of United. We'll go into their mistakes in a bit, but I don't know if he's necessarily the one for right now. I would have picked somebody more experienced to lead Man U. I think he would have been fine at a smaller club doing it. Next, we'll look at Omar Barada. He's the most experienced one in football out of all of them. Now, he has spent over 15 years on the commercial side of football, mostly like marketing department, marketing managers, partnership roles, that kind of stuff. COOs, came from City. Most recently, he had 4 years on the football side of City prior to joining United. So I don't think that was a bad appointment. 4 years on the footballing side of things of a successful club. That appointment is fine. Now let's look at the decisions that they collectively made together. Sacking of Dan Ashworth. We waited 6 months when he was on gardening leave to bring him in to sack him after what felt like weeks.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get along with Jim Ratcliffe, or they had different views of the direction that Man U should go in. Shouldn't you have figured that out before you offered him the job? What direction he wanted to go in?
You want to interview the person before you hire them?
Yeah. Why do you want to come to United? Or what do you think are the directions? Did you not ask any of these questions? And if you did he just all of a sudden change it up? Ashworth has proven to be a successful sporting director. Whether it was at England or Newcastle, he had a lot to do spearheading Newcastle's team today. We got rid of him in weeks, and now we're in the same spot as before he was here. Eric Ten Hag, giving him a new contract. The whole situation with Eric Ten Hag, backing him in the summer window. After he won the FA Cup, you back him in the window, you give him a new contract just to fire him a few months later. Where's the logic in that?
What was backing him was the craziest thing. Yeah, he won the FA Cup, but Ten Hag was a dead man walking for a long time.
Yeah. So again, 3 guys made this decision. Let's bring another one. Bringing in Amorim, knowing that he likes to play with a back 3 and wing backs, knowing that we don't have wing backs or players to suit his system. We'd have to recruit and buy specialty players like the wing backs. At what point did we think that was a good idea? I get he's an up-and-coming coach. Other people may have wanted him, like City, Chelsea, but he would have suited the Chelsea system much better than United. And when you interviewed him again, did you ask this question? Are you open? Are you fluid are you adaptable to doing different system? I'm pretty sure you would have said, no, I'm sticking with 3 at the back. As a sporting director and as the CEO, your job is to assess the squad. Is it worth bringing on Amorim to bringing another 8 to 10 new players for him? What's the timeline look like? It didn't match. It doesn't make sense. So, you look at those decisions, it doesn't make sense. To me, I would hire a proven sporting director. You had Monchi. We already got rid of Dan Ashworth. You have Luis Campos at PSG. I don't know who would want to come and pull them away from their current successful projects, but we had an opportunity in Ashworth and we just let that slip through our fingers. We'll never know at this point if he would have been successful. We didn't even give the guy a chance. That's what bothers me. We're giving all these managers years. We're giving Ten Hag years and hundreds of millions of dollars to spend in the transfer window. And we gave Dan Ashworth weeks to fix the problem? Come on.
That's just the bigger problem with accountability. And then everything we've talked about is it goes down to, okay, you need one or two people to fix this problem. You just don't need to throw money. You need two people who know what they're doing to come and fix this. The problem is, who is crazy enough to come and fix this? Who wants to deal with this? And I'm not trying to, be a dick or be over exaggerating, but I'm serious. Like, who wants to take this on right now, man? I have to deal with I have to deal with owners and the sporting directors that don't have a single clue what they're talking. Oh, I play a 4-3-3. You know what I think? I think you should do a 4-4-2, and I'm gonna go ride my bike. What the fuck do you mean you're going to tell me how to run my system? And that's why you get the talent that you do get. I don't know if it's more of, oh, we're just poor decision makers. If it's more of, this is our options. This is who we have. We have to pick out of these few. What resonates more with you? Do you think they're just bad at making choices, or they just have such a poor talent pool that they just have to make do with what they got right now?
I think they're just poor decision makers. I mean, there's 3 of them. At some point, there was if you include Jim Ratcliffe, 4 people making decisions, man. And I don't know if it was a ego contest with Ashworth or what, but you had a guy who was willing to go to you. You had that guy.
We talked about this when it broke out. We were both super excited. Like, this is smart. This is probably the smartest thing United's done in a long time.
Exactly. And they just let him go. For whatever reason, like, Jim Ratcliffe hasn't proven to be successful on the sporting side at all. So maybe just fund the money, take a step back, and appoint the CEO or something. And at some point, if the CEO is not hiring the right sporting director, then look at him. I am quite shocked that, like, Omar Rada is part of these consistently poor decisions. It just takes one guy to be like, guys, what the hell are we doing? Why are we giving him a new deal? Because he won the FA Cup? No. It's a one-off game. No.
He's a business guy, and that's the side he should have stayed on,
I think the pressure's getting too big.
Yes.
I think the pressure's huge at United, and they're afraid to make the wrong choice, so they make the safe choice each time. It's going to take somebody bold coming in there, and I don't know if that was Ashworth or not, but he's clearly said something that they didn't like, and maybe it would have solved the problem, because doing the same thing is not working.
I mean, if I had to guess on what Ashworth could have said, it probably is a conversation of something like, we are a club in crisis, whether you want to admit it or not. We don't look like a typical lower league club where we have to sell people. We're going to go out of business, X, Y, Z. We're a club in crisis, and this isn't going to get fixed in 1 year, 2 years. This is going to take time. And I'm sure Sir Jim Ratcliffe did not like hearing that after you spent over $1 billion plus $300 million of his own money. When you mean this is going to take longer than me just throwing a few $1 million at it? That doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why he has to go. And like you said, that's why they're picking safe people. We're like, no, oh, you can guarantee me that everything's going to change in 1 season? Got it. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, Amron probably got away with saying something like, oh, no, give me 2-3 years. Everything's going to be perfect. We're going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened. And then they just actively got worse this season.
If you keep hiring yes men or people that are going to tell you what you want to hear, situation won't change. Work. No, it won't. You need to find something that has been proven, which is why, I go back to who's proven out of the 3 that I told you, Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, and Dave Brailsford. Which one's proven? Omar Barada's 1 out of 3. Okay, keep him. He's proven. Let's find a proven sporting director. Let's find a proven technical director. Let's find proven people in those roles. This is Manchester United. Why are we hiring people to do these roles for the first time? Makes no sense to me.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be someone who's a technical director at a football club. Pretty sure Michael Edwards...
Sporting director, I would say yes. Technical director, no.
Well, Michael Edwards came over from not football. Football is a new thing to him. Look what he's doing. And he's worked up to this.
One guy.
I think it's... You have to take a risk on somebody. Like you're saying, you have to take a risk on somebody. And they don't want to take a risk on anybody. They feel they spend too much money into this down to start taking risks. I think Amarin had to have hit the ground running very, very hard for this play that Ineos has to work out. I think they may have put themselves in a spot where the money that they could have used to fix this club is gone now, and it's went with Amarin.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
now it's
think
just a lot
their
of,
funds are dry.
yeah, I don't know. Where do you go from here? I mean, we fired Dan Ashworth, which, wow, just brilliant moves from them. I mean,
It's embarrassing.
it's, yeah, it's embarrassing. It's confused. Again, like, I'm at a loss for words. Like, I'm trying to figure out what it could be for United, but we're getting close to almost 20 years now since Fergie's left, right?
Look how long it took Liverpool to come back.
Mm-hmm.
30
Took us
years
a
took
long
them.
time. But in between then, we won FA Cups, we won a Champions League, we were winning. Granted, United's won some trophies, but they're not convincing. It's not convincing at all. It's not enough to where a manager who is a Champions League winning manager, there's not enough there for them to want to go to United, just with all of these issues, these constant problems. I mean, who do you answer to on any given day, right?
The change at Liverpool was what? It was FSG and the appointment of Michael Edwards and brought in Klopp and brought in those players. They started from the top. We're starting from the bottom, trying to change it with the players and the coach and hoping we could just keep all our buddies that are up in the executive office there. And arguably Liverpool was the bigger club out of the two, and it took them 30 years to get back. I don't know why people think United can bounce back in 10. Like, it's not going to happen.
Well,
So,
people want a City-esque solution to problems now. I think that's what United's hunting for, but
sure.
that world of football doesn't exist anymore because of FFP. You can't do
If
that.
Yeah, I mean, even if they did, let's be real, if they didn't get Pep, they wouldn't be what they are right now. Yes, they've won a couple of titles without Pep, but they would not be what they did, are the last 10 years if it wasn't for Pep.
I don't understand why this club keeps trying to go for no, we just need one thing, one quick change that's going to fix it. They keep going for this solution over and over and over again. Like, walk with me, right? Fergie retires. We appoint Moisey. Let go of Moisey, right? Get Van Hall. Get rid of Van Hall. My thing was Jose. Get rid of Jose. You get Oli. Get rid of Oli. Get ETH. Get rid of ETH. You have Amarin, who you swore up and down, I'm backing this guy. He's gone. It's 6 managers.
Well, that's not even including all the interims. Like, I think we're up to
Those
9
are
or 10
permanent managers at United. I mean, it's just it's daunting, man. Like, I wish I had more words to say to you that were more positive about this situation, but it's very bleak. It's very scary.
It is. And honestly, I think the recruitment team needs to take a brunt of that too. Although they fall under the umbrella of the sporting director, in this case now it's Jason Wilcox, I think a couple of the signings lately have been good. Cunha and Mbeumo are good, and I do think obviously Bruno Fernandes was probably the best one post Fergie. But they've made a lot of bad signings since Fergie's gone and David Gill, like all that. Like, it's been quite bad. And who's leading the charge for that, right? For each of these, I think the head of, like, whoever, underneath the sporting director, you do have a head of recruitment. That person should probably be like, I know you want this guy, but the stats are not backing it up. We have these other guys that are maybe cheaper and better that fit this. They got to speak up and have that voice to say no to their bosses or to offer alternative solutions. And from the outside, it doesn't look like that's happening. I'm going to give you a couple different ways to think about this. So Real Madrid, Juve. Over the last few years, they've both signed players that have been out of contract, right? Different approaches, though. Real Madrid gets Mbappe out of contract, and they get players out of contract, and they pay him high wages. Juve get players that are out of contract, but they're older, not necessarily in their prime like Real Madrid. Maybe United need to adopt that strategy for a little bit. Get a couple people that are out of contract. United used to have that allure to them of, just like Madrid has now. Hey, we're Madrid. Run your contract down. Come to us. We'll pay you higher. United have to puff their chest out and act like that and become that once more. Hey, we're United. We'll pay you more. We have the funds to pay you more. Run out your contract. Come to us, right? You don't have to do that with every signing, but you can get away with a signing or two by doing that, going to negotiations like that, convincing players on the project. That's just my 2 cents on that. I do think each signing has to involve both the head coach and the sporting director, and they got to be on the same page and work cohesively. And obviously, you're going to have people that are in the background, like the analytics people and the finance teams, but they have to be on the same page in order to balance the needs of the club and the realistic targets. The managers can't say, "Oh, get me this guy," and it's not going to work in the books, and his contract's 6 years long. It has to make sense. So that's why they have to be on the same team, which I don't think Amarim and Wilcox are on the same team on that. They weren't on the same page.
I don't think any, I don't think anyone's reading the same book over there, brother.
They're not. But the manager's thinking short term, right? Manager's like, hey, I got 1 to 2 years to spin this ship around. I got to win now. Sporting directors, on the other hand, think long term and stability of the club financially and all that. So right there, your mindset's already different, but they
Yeah,
have to
I
figure out
want
a
to ask
way.
you this: is that not what is holding United back so much? Because yes, as a manager, you need to think short term, but you have to be thinking long term. You have to be realistic and know that I can't stop this sinking ship in 1 year or 2 years. I need 3 or 4. And your sporting director has to back you like that, right?
What manager's been given longer than that, really? 3 years tops. And that's if you're getting some sort of success in the interim.
Hmm.
They can't think more past that. Yeah, you have Solskjaer who said, "Oh, I wanted Holland. I wanted all these other targets." Well, it's like, okay, well, it's nice to say you wanted them, but we couldn't get them, or we didn't get them for whatever reason. But coulda, shoulda, woulda. You need to get certain players that you can now and work with what you have to get trophies, to get consistent top 4 finishes. So yeah, they just need to be on the same page, man. It
I don't
seems
know.
like
I
everybody has
feel
their
like
own agenda.
it's back to what I said earlier, what we were discussing at the start of it all, that United always said, "We wanted Holland." Yeah, Ollie, Holland doesn't want to go to this Man United. It's not the Man United you played for. United still, like through all levels, thinks it still has the class of '92, that Neville's still captain, that they still have Gaza, that they still have Scholesy. Like, you don't have these people anymore. You need to go to a Leipzig, or you need to go to a FC Lorient. You need to go to these small clubs and take risks on players for cheap. You can take risks on players who can become great for basically no money nowadays. And it's just this constant disconnect of, well, I only have 2 years. Like, okay, well, I need to think 6, 8 years ahead. I mean, the cycle's always going to repeat. No one's accountable, because sporting director's not going to take accountability for pointing the wrong manager who doesn't meet his vision. Manager's not going to take accountability because the club's clearly not ever trusted his vision. So it's not on him, right? And Glazers,
I'm not running it, right?
yeah, Ratcliffe, I think Jim Ratcliffe strikes me as a guy. This may be harsh. Sir Jim Ratcliffe strikes me as a guy that would probably die before he admits that he was wrong.
Probably.
It's not good when you're trying to fix an entire club like this. But before we wrap things up, give me the manager that you want to come in to fix this sinking ship, and it's his first signing that's going to really get things moving.
Luis Enrique. I would start above that. I would start with the executive board if I was Jim Ratcliffe. I wouldn't fire Jason Wilcox. I would move him back to technical director and then hire like Monchi, or actually I would hire Luis Campos from PSG. Take both of them. Take the sporting director and take the head coach. Bring them both to United. Give yourself some structure. That's what I would do.
Well, you heard it here, folks. United is going to poach all of PSG's front heads. They're going to get Enrique. 2 years, Travis said so. 2 years, they will win the treble. The
I
real
don't know about
treble.
that. No, even with that, it might take.
You said Luis Enrique,
might
so
take
that
3.
has to happen.
Maybe.
But that's all for today, Travis. I thank you very much for doing the heavy lifting on this. It was fun. Any last thoughts, words?
Say prayers, man. Say prayers for United.
I will not. I will be praying on their downfall. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next time.
See ya.